Recently, Tennessee became one of just a handful of states across the country to receive a waiver from federal No Child Left Behind rules and regulations. This is a testament to the hard work of many, many educators across the state and a recognition that the things that we're doing right now, the hard work that we're engaged in, is important and headed in the right direction. I want to talk a little bit about why we applied for this waiver and then about what it means for schools moving forward. For many of us, No Child Left Behind, when it was passed more than a decade ago, represented an important step in the right direction for schools as we thought about how we could best serve kids from all backgrounds. We want to make sure that we preserve that commitment, but that we do it in a way that matches with the things that we know will work for kids and for schools across Tennessee. And so we sought regulatory relief and are very pleased to be one of the first states in the country to be granted this waiver. When we think about why we asked for the waiver, we really think about two pieces. One, what would have happened if we hadn't received the waiver, and two, how we can use the waiver to construct an accountability system that we think is more reflective of our goals moving forward. As many of you know, No Child Left Behind established standards for proficiency that increased by about 20% a year moving forward. So last year, more than half of the schools in Tennessee failed to meet AYP requirements under No Child Left Behind and were deemed failing. This year, around 80% of schools would likely fail to meet AYP targets. In many cases, schools that are actually improving, schools that are getting better results, schools that are doing hard work and improving the lives of kids would nonetheless move from passing to failing simply as a result of the change in standards increasing at a rate that surpasses any state's ability to meet those requirements. We don't think this is fair, and we don't think this is appropriate. We do not believe that tens of thousands of adults across the state should go to work every day, working hard, in many cases getting fantastic results, and nonetheless be told that the school is failing. So we decided that we needed to create an accountability system that we thought was more reflective of our goals and our priorities that we laid out in Race to the Top. In Race to the Top, which every school district in the state signed on to, Tennessee put forward an application that called for every school and every district to improve results measurably over a period of the next 5 years. Our goals through Race to the Top are ambitious. They call for schools and districts to grow proficiency levels at a rate of around 4%, 5% a year, each and every year. This is hard work. If we can pull this off, if we can get to the point where 20% more kids are proficient or advanced on standardized tests than they were just a few years ago, we will feel very proud of that accomplishment. And additionally, we've created through Race to the Top a performance evaluation system that is focused on growth, on improvement, on taking people where they are and improving their performance. And so we think that it is really important that we have an accountability system that's aligned to the other work that we're doing, that what we're saying to everybody, to parents, to teachers, to principals, to district officials, and to everyone across the state is that our goal is wherever we're starting from to improve a little bit each year in a measurable way. And while we're doing that, to make sure that the kids that are farthest behind are improving even faster than other kids, so that gaps between groups of kids are shrinking. This waiver will allow us to establish that accountability system and to put us in a position where all of our focuses are aligned against common goals and objectives. The heart of our new proposed accountability system revolves around two twin pillars. The first is to focus on growth, on improving the number of kids who are proficient or advanced in core subject areas. And the second is to reduce gaps between groups of children, essentially to ensure that the children who are farthest behind advance faster than other children so that we start to close those pernicious gaps that have existed over time, not just in Tennessee, but across the country. When we think about improvements in overall achievement, we want to make sure that we are holding districts and schools accountable for growing results, but that we're doing so in a way that is fair and reasonable. The idea under No Child Left Behind that we would increase proficiency levels by 20% a year was unrealistic and in fact unprecedented. I know of no state or district across the country that has ever, for a sustained period of time, grown achievement levels at that rate. At the same time, from our conversations with teachers, with principals, and with school district superintendents, we know that people believe that we can improve from where we are if we measure it appropriately. People have told us we believe that we can perform at a level that's 3, 4, 5% higher every year. We think that using data and improving our practice, we can ensure that every year more students are proficient or advanced than the year before. And so we are setting state goals that call for a growth in the percentage of children who are proficient or advanced on key standardized tests by 3 to 5% per year over a sustained period of time. We're asking districts to set goals that are in line with the state goals. We want each district to aspire to improve the percentage of children who are proficient or advanced. And what's important here is that we're trying to meet districts where they are. If a district has 60% of its children who are proficient or advanced, and the district is far exceeding the current state averages, we nonetheless expect that that district will be able to improve its results incrementally every year. Similarly, if a district only has 25% of its children who are proficient or advanced on a state standardized test, we expect that district to improve from its current standing. The difference between this and No Child Left Behind is we are not saying to the district that's at 25% proficiency, next year you have to be at 80% proficiency. That is highly unlikely to happen and not an appropriate goal. And so instead what we are saying is you need to improve from where you are each and every year so that over a 5-year period of time we see measurable growth in the number of children who are at or above grade level. When we look at the gaps between groups of students, we want to measure districts to ensure that they are closing the gaps between all students and between students with disabilities, limited English proficient students, economically disadvantaged students, and students from racial and ethnic minority groups that historically have lagged behind the state averages in performances. We will be measuring both of these things equally, and in all cases, working with the districts to set goals that districts believe they can achieve. Districts, in turn, will be working with their schools to set school-level goals that ensure that in aggregate, all of us are aspiring to the same vision of growth in the number of overall children at grade level and reduction in gaps between different groups of children over a period of time. One of the major changes between Tennessee's new proposed accountability framework and the old No Child Left Behind AYP system is the role of thinking about school accountability. Under the old system, as you know, schools were all measured against AYP standards, and they were deemed to either pass or to fail the AYP standards. Under the new proposed accountability system, we are going to be measuring at the state level how our districts are performing in aggregate, and districts are going to be working individually with their schools to ensure that their schools are growing at a rate that sustains the district level growth. There are 3 categories of schools that will be identified under the new accountability system at the state level. First, we are going to have a group of schools that will be identified as reward schools. These schools will fall into 2 groups. The 5% of schools that perform at the top in terms of absolute achievement, and the 5% of schools that perform at the top in terms of growth rates for students. We are really excited to identify these schools and to figure out the best ways to learn from them and to share best practices with other schools. There are, of course, so many great schools across Tennessee, both schools that are getting incredible scores right now in absolute achievement, but also schools that, regardless of their starting place, are growing incredibly rapidly. And we know that these schools have so much to offer to their peers, and we're excited to have the opportunity to identify groups of schools as reward schools. Second, we will be identifying 10% of schools in the state as focus schools. These will be the schools that are identified as needing to focus on particular areas because they have the largest gaps between groups of students. These schools will be a diverse group of schools in terms of their location, in terms of their size, but all of them will be identified because particular groups of students are lagging other groups in performance, and they are in need of focusing on those groups. These schools will be asked to create plans for how they're going to start shrinking those gaps between groups of students, and they'll be able to apply for resources from the state in the form of grants to help them implement changes that will allow them to shrink those gaps. Lastly, the bottom 5% of schools in absolute performance, as measured on standardized assessments, will be identified as priority schools. Priority schools will be the schools that have the lowest level of performance and are in need of the highest level of state intervention. These schools will be eligible for inclusion in the Achievement School District. They will also be eligible for inclusion in district-led innovation zones that districts will design to help turn around schools. And they'll also be eligible for applying for school improvement grants from the State Department of Education to access federal resources to help them improve their performance. These are the schools that we believe need and deserve the highest level of intervention from the state, and we intend to put significant effort into ensuring that schools at the bottom 5% of the performance curve turn around their performance as quickly as possible. In conclusion, I believe this waiver and the new accountability framework presents an exciting opportunity for schools across Tennessee. We are attempting to align top to bottom all of our accountability around a simple concept, the idea of improvement and growth. Students, teachers, principals, district leaders, and the state as a whole will be measured based on how we grow from where we are. All of us will be expected to grow our level of performance over time, but we'll be expected to do it in a way that's reasonable and fair, and that we think can be sustained over a long period of time, and that in aggregate will lead to many thousands more students across the state performing at the levels that we all hope our students will be able to reach. No Child Left Behind served an important purpose over time. It allowed us to focus on all kids, regardless of their background, and we intend to maintain that focus under this new accountability system. But we're excited that we in Tennessee are able to develop our own accountability framework and to do it in a way that reinforces the work that's already happening. Make no mistake, Tennessee is getting this waiver from the federal government because of the hard work that you all are already doing. Just about every state in the country is seeking regulatory relief from No Child Left Behind, but Tennessee is one of the first states to receive it. And the reason we're getting it is because we are so far down the path of reforming our education system. Because we are already implementing teacher and principal evaluation, because of our readiness and willingness to implement the Common Core state standards and to increase standards for all children, because of our ability to create an accountability framework and use data to measure results and to measure growth of all students, of teachers, of schools, of districts, we are in a position to seek and receive this regulatory relief. I am very excited about the prospects of implementing this accountability system over the coming years. I think it is a much fairer way of measuring our success in Tennessee, and I think it will help us reach our goals for kids in Tennessee so that all kids, regardless of their background, whatever school they attend, whatever district they attend, will have the opportunity to succeed in school and in life. Thank you.